Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and the first thing I want to say is I have an announcement for everybody who's playing in my 2 fantasy football leagues this year. The draft will be Saturday night. I know a lot of people were asking, James, when's the draft? James, when's the draft? And I had picked a date, but I decided to move it closer because I'm impatient, and I just figured, it'll give us something to do. We can make a cool event out of it. So both drafts are going to be Saturday night, and I'm going to be live streaming both drafts, so that should be a lot of fun. Maybe you guys can help me pick players if you're not in the league, or if you are in the league, hey, maybe you can see what team I pick and then like swindle me out of some players or something, and it can be fun. Don't do that, please. I just want to have my players. But in today's video, we are talking about Buccaneers injuries. Now, this is the first of 2 videos I'm going to be uploading today because I figured I needed to make this video because so many people had so many questions about all of the Buccaneers injuries. So I decided to write down all the injuries that I've seen, that have been reported, how long they are, whether it's a minor injury or a major injury. I've kind of compiled most of them, and I'm going to tell you guys about all of them and what you should expect from each and every player and talk about their options and how ready they'll be for week 1. Because let's be honest, nobody really cares if they're going to play in a preseason game if they're a starter. What we care about is if they are going to play in the first regular season game and then, every game forward with that. So let's get started. I'm going to go through position by position. Quarterback, we're good. Nobody's hurt. Running back, this is the first one because recently, Charles Sims suffered a knee injury, and it was believed to not be that big of a deal. However, the Buccaneers did end up putting him on the injured reserve, which means he is eligible to come back, I believe, after 8 weeks into the regular season. But before that, he's not coming back. He's on the injured reserve, and he's out. So what that means is, you can bring him back after 8 weeks, but that also means that Dare Ogunbowale and Sean Wilson both have, their chances have obviously went from like down here to all the way up here. So that's very interesting. That's going to be something to watch out for in the upcoming preseason game, which, gee, I wonder who's making a video about a preview of that. Anyway, wide receiver, we're pretty much good. Jake Lampman, he should be good to go for preseason games and week 1 if they decide to keep him. Very minor injury, he should be fine. Tight end, we're good. Again, everybody should be good to go. Offensive line is where things get sad. Let's get the easy ones out of the way, okay? DeMar Dodson had been dealing with injuries. He should be fine for week 1. Same with Ali Marpet and same with Caleb Benenoch. All 3 of those guys should be good to go. So we are for sure going to have, unless something crazy happens, which knock on wood, we should have at least Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Caleb Benenoch, and DeMar Dodson as 4 out of our 5 starting offensive linemen for sure for week 1. Again, unless something bad happens, knock on wood. But Donovan Smith is the bad one. So recently, Donovan Smith, he was carted off the practice with a bad injury. A lot of people freaked out. We thought we were all like, he tore his ACL. And even I was like, he tore his ACL. We're screwed. But he has a sprained knee, and he should be out 2 to 4 weeks. Now, they do have an option that I'll talk about a little bit later on, known as the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, but I don't think that's going to be an option. What that list is if a player suffers an injury during the off-season program or during the preseason program in games and whatnot, you can put them on the physically unable to perform list, and that means that they would be out the first 6 weeks of the regular season for sure. You cannot take them off the PUP list for the first 6 weeks of the season. However, I don't think that's really necessary. His estimated recovery time right now is at least 2 weeks and at most 4 weeks. So he was diagnosed with that, probably like a couple days ago, and we still have 2 preseason games left. So it's possible that he comes back for week 1. I would give it probably a 25% chance that he's ready for week 1 and a 75% chance that he probably won't be ready for week 1. That's just my opinion. Other people have said it's been 50-50. So you can say 25-75 or you can say 50-50. Either way, that one's a little bit more of a toss-up, but it's possible. It's definitely, it's not earth-shattering if we don't have Donovan Smith. It will suck. We would probably have to rely on Leonard Wester, who has dealt with injuries of his own. And by the way, all the backup offensive linemen, they'll be good. I haven't seen anything reported from from like Greg Allman or the Pewter Report or anything. Nothing's been reported for those guys' injuries. They'll all be good to go. Minor injuries, just holding them out for precautionary reasons. You don't want to push them so far that they'll get major injuries and then they'll be out for a long time. But Donovan Smith's the big one, 2 to 4 weeks, possibly plays for week 1. Moving on to the defensive line, Vita Vea, who had a sprained calf earlier on in the offseason. He hasn't played in a single preseason game yet. He'll be good for week 1. The reason that, you know, the Buccaneers are keeping him out and, you know, everybody's like, he's a bust. And okay, that's okay. Maybe lay off that a little bit. But the reason that they've been keeping him out is obvious. He's the Buccaneers' first-round pick. He suffered an injury, you know, that required some amount of recovery time. And the Bucs aren't going to take no risks. They're taking absolutely no risks. There's no way they're going to risk Vita Vea coming back even more, you know, and re-injuring himself. There's no way. So I guarantee this, okay? He'll be held out for the remaining, you know, possibly the remaining 2 preseason games. He might play a little bit in the last one, depending, you know, maybe they just want to get him, make sure he's not rusty and whatnot, because he hasn't practiced either. But I could see a situation where they hold him out until week 1 so he's fully healthy and he's ready to go and they don't run that risk of him re-injuring himself. So that's why we haven't seen Vita Vea. He's fine. He should be good to go for week 1. They just don't want to, you know, they don't want to risk anything, and I completely understand that for sure. Yes, it is a little disappointing that we haven't seen him, but he should be fine, guys. He's our first-round pick. The dude's a monster from the islands, man. He'll be good to go. Mitch Unrein was another one people were confused about. I believe it was a concussion, but I'm not too sure. But again, kind of like with Vita Vea, they're holding him out because he's going to be a big part of the defense moving forward, the defensive line rotations and whatnot. He should be fine for week 1. They're just kind of holding him out. It's nice, too, because it gives some of these reserve defensive linemen a chance and, you know, go out there, maybe do something, you know, to keep on the notes, you know, keep in the logbook, and, you know, maybe they make the roster, and if not, well, then if something goes wrong with a current guy who makes the 53, you have some backup plans who you liked. So, you know, Mitch Unrein, Vita Vea, they should be fine. Precautionary stuff. Kendall Beckwith. Kendall Beckwith, you know, this is another big one. A lot of people ask about Kendall Beckwith, okay? From what's been reported, and as we know, he fractured his ankle in a car accident before training camp, before the preseason, before all of that. You know, he fractured in a car accident, unfortunately. He's a candidate for the PUP list. You know, from what I've seen reported, again, by the Pewter Report, by Greg Allman, by others, I can't really give you much of I can't give you an insider scoop on anything. But from what I've seen, from what I've read, Kendall Beckwith's pretty 50-50, and he's a strong candidate for the PUP list. Now, again, to explain what the PUP list is, physically unable to perform list, that means that you would not be able to play for the first 6 weeks of the season. I don't think that they would necessarily put him on the IR. You could, if you want to free up a roster spot for somebody else, because it would be a 2-week difference, but I could understand if you want to bring him back for 2 weeks. You do still have a Darius Taylor there, which does, you know, things would be fine for them. You know, Darius Taylor is a very serviceable linebacker. I think he would do a wonderful job starting at the left outside linebacker position. But again, it's 50% he could be ready in some capacity, and 50% he could go on the PUP list and be out for the first 6 weeks of the season. Another thing that was suggested by Greg Allman is they keep him on the active roster, and they don't put him on the PUP list, they don't put him on the IR, they keep him on the active roster, but they just have him be inactive until he's fully ready to go, because you don't dress up all 53. You have to have a certain amount of players who are inactive for games, so you could potentially do that. Honestly, that might be what's going to happen. I think out of all 3 of those scenarios, whether he goes on IR, whether he goes on, or 4 options, whether he's good to go, IR, PUP list, or you just have him be inactive but still on the active roster, I like that 4th option the most, because if you rush him back and he's ready to go, you know, he might not be fully healthy. If he isn't fully healthy, then don't play him, you know, because then you start getting bad stuff. You start getting like Jameis Winston stuff where he was playing hurt and it just sucked. And it was just not good, you know, it just wasn't good. So I don't want that. If he was on the PUP list and, you know, let's say he's fully healthy after like 2 weeks, that would suck, and same with the injured reserve. So I like the idea of having Kendall Beckwith be on the active roster, 53-man roster. He counts for a roster spot, but he's just inactive. Because if he was on the PUP list, if he was on the IR, he wouldn't count towards a roster spot. But if you keep him inactive, that means, it sucks for one guy, who would have gotten that roster spot, but it's good because there's not any pressure, and you can take as much time as you need to. And, if it's only 2 weeks, then that's fine. Then you activate him for the third game, and that's really nice. Justin Evans is fine. He's good to go. I actually asked him at the training camp. I was like, hey, man, glad to hear you weren't really hurt. And he's like, yeah, I'm all good. So there you go. So Justin Evans is good. I know a lot of people were like, oh, what happened? He got carted out of practice along with Donovan Smith. He's good to go. Perfectly, he's fine. He'll be fine for week 1. Hargraves, good to go. Whitehead, Carlton Davis, MJ Stewart, all good to go for week 1. All minor injuries. If they are being held out, it's all precautionary. That's it. It's all precautionary, guys. Do not worry. Any of these injuries you hear about, unless they report, oh, it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks, like in the case of Donovan Smith, or oh, they might go on the PUP list, or oh, they're going on the IR. They'll be fine. If they're on the 53-man roster, they'll be ready for week 1, hands down. So yeah, guys, that's your injury update. I hope I covered all the bases. If you guys have any more questions about any type of injuries, put it down in the comments section below, and either I'll respond to it or one of you guys will respond to it. We can all just discuss injuries together because it's a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. And next video will be up in like a few minutes, and it'll be about the Buccaneers preseason week 3 previews. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Goodbye for now, guys. See ya, and go Bucs.